Welcome to the first episode of Face Name Story, where I think that ordinary people have extraordinary stories and they just need a place to share them. So I'm going to be talking to different people and hearing their story and what all they have to say. So this episode, we have on Jackson Stanek, one of my high school and lifelong best friends. So Jackson, tell the people a little bit about yourself real quick, and then we'll get into some of your story.
Yeah, so me and Steven knew each other in high school. We became friends in like junior year. And then I went off to Western Kentucky University, which is in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And I've just kind of been out here ever since. I lead Young Life. I play a lot of spike ball and currently searching for a job, currently unemployed. So yeah, just a
Nice.
little bit about me.
There you go. Did you in high school, like what sports were you a part of in high school?
Yeah, I played basketball and I ran track.
Basketball and track. You did some other like extreme sports, didn't you? What did you say?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't really supposed to do those, but that's kind of like what I did as well. That's really like what I like to do. I kind of had to hide them from my parents. But yeah, I did like parkour, free running. I don't really like to call it parkour, but free running. Um, Me and my friends would like cliff jump. We really like diving boards, trampolines, and then we got really into like snowboarding as well.
Dang. Dang. When did you get into snowboarding?
So the first time I ever went was I think it was eighth grade. I went with Chris Conradi and Josh Iben. We went to Perfect North. Um, we like took a lesson, but we just kind of ditched the lesson after we learned how to stop. And then ever
That's all you
since
need,
then,
right?
we were
As long
kind
as,
of
as long as
hooked.
you don't crash into a tree, you're fine. That's all you
Right.
need to
Yeah. And on my first run, I actually did hit a person, but
know.
it wasn't a tree. So it was better than nothing, you know?
So you hit a person on your first run ever snowboarding. So in all those years of extreme sports, surely you got hurt a couple times, right?
Yeah. I've had some really bad injuries, especially snowboarding. Um, I guess one quicker story would be it was my freshman year of high school, and me and Chris were on a ski lift, and it got stopped about like three-fourths of the way up. And Chris just looked at me and he's like, "Hey, do you want to just jump? Like, we're
How
almost
high is
here."
that?
It was probably about 15 feet.
Okay.
If you've ever been to Perfect North, it's the red lift. It's near the top. It's like high enough for people to like ski under it, like really, really easily, but it's also like one of the shorter ones.
Hmm.
So so he jumped off it first, and he was a skier and he was fine. And then I just jumped off it next. And I didn't have my back foot strapped in. So when I hit the ground, I fell backwards and um, reached out my arm to kind of like brace my fall. And I ended up like tearing my UCL, which, if you don't know, is like that's the Tommy John ligament where like
Okay.
pitchers have to get Tommy John surgery. And I tore that and broke my elbow. And
Oh my gosh.
so right after I landed, we heard like whistles from the ski patrol people, and immediately Chris just started taking off, like running down the hill. And so that's like I was like, okay, I need to strap in and go. I don't know if I strapped in or not, but we just like started booking it down center stage as fast as we could go. And like I remember falling because like I was in so much pain already, and I like tried to ride down, but I fell and they caught me and they like escorted me down. But Chris got away, and Chris made it into the line of another run. I think he made it to like the blue chair and he like went up and he got completely away, but I like got in trouble. And but I was
So
in so much pain I didn't care about getting in trouble.
why is your as you're about to jump from a 15 high foot ski lift, did you not think, you know what, I should probably just go ahead and strap my other foot in?
I don't know. I didn't think it was a big deal. Like it really doesn't look that high from when you're up there. Like the red one doesn't, but like he was just so confident. He just went first. So I was like, I guess I have to do it too. And I didn't even think about strapping in either. Like it's hard to strap in anyways, but I don't know.
I think ski lifts, I've never once in my entire life been on a ski lift and felt safe. I I get on them and I start going up and they start like swaying a little bit. Every once in a while it just like jerks really hard as it's like I guess catching up or something. And there's no railings, which is beyond me. And this time of generations when we're all like so safe and wear seatbelts and all of these things, the fact that ski lifts you can still get on without putting on a seatbelt or a harness over your head is beyond me. I think it's a disaster waiting to happen. So I'm glad that you survived through that, but it
Have
seems
you
like it
ever
would
heard
happen
of
a lot.
anyone? Have you ever heard of anyone falling off a ski lift though?
Never.
I've never met anyone who's just been like, "Oh yeah, I was just on a ski lift and just slipped and fell off."
Maybe
Like
one
that
day on
doesn't
the
happen.
podcast, I'm going to get someone who has a story of falling off a ski lift, and it's going to be terrible and very sad.
Maybe, but like I don't know. I don't feel like people would fall off a ski lift, but maybe they would. Who knows?
I think you trust people a lot more than I do. All right, so you broke your elbow and or you tore your UCL, which apparently is different than an MCL and an ACL.
Yeah,
Um, different part of the body, I'm assuming.
it's in your elbow.
Okay. Does your
Yeah.
elbow have an ACL or MCL? Probably not.
No, I think that's like I don't
Okay.
really. I'm not an elbow expert, but that's pretty much the only ligament there. I think.
All right, makes sense. I don't
So
know.
now I can never really like throw left-handed very well now. When I like went to decide if I wanted to get surgery on it, the dude asked me, he's like, "Are you ever gonna wrestle?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Are you ever gonna play football?" And I was like, "No." And so
Hmm.
I decided not to get the surgery. Little did he know I'd be playing spike ball, and now I can never serve left-handed probably.
Just use it as an excuse. So,
Yeah, I know.
did you after that, after you recovered from that, did you have any other major snowboarding accidents?
Yeah, so that one wasn't the worst one. The worst one was um, my junior year, and this was probably it wasn't just the worst one like injury wise. It was probably the worst one because it ended my track season as well. It was like a little later in the snowboarding season,
So
and
it
this was when
wasn't
I
as
like
bad?
really cared about really cared about track. What'd you say?
I was gonna say, so it wasn't as bad injury wise, or it was as
It
bad?
was. It
Oh,
was. For both reasons, it was worse. But
gotcha.
so this particular day was just a bad day. Like, I don't know if you've snowboarded before, so you
Yeah.
kind of know. But like some days you just have those days where like you're on a rail and you just like hit your shin and you're like, dang it, that hurt. Or like you'll fall and like hit your tailbone really hard and just like be really bruised the rest of the day. And you're just like, ah, man, like this is just a bad day. So anyway, I was having a bad day. And um, so about halfway through the day, I like left the park. And I just kind of went off on my own and was like riding hills. And then eventually my friends talked me back into coming to the park. They're like, hey, man, like the snow's gotten better. It's gotten faster. And so I came into the park and I'd hit my shin on the rail twice. So I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm done doing rails today. I'm just doing jumps. And me and Chris had just gotten done watching, I think it was the X Games. It might have been Olympics, but it was one or the other.
And you guys are
And
like close to that level, right? So you guys can start throwing all those tricks.
no, I'm not. I was not at all. Chris was closer, but we weren't that good at this time. But we we heard the like announcers talking about this thing called the thug zone, which is when you send a jump farther than halfway down the knuckle. So the knuckle's like that big pile of snow that's the landing zone. So if
Mhm.
you land more than halfway down it, that's considered the thug zone. So me and Chris were like, hey, let's like send these jumps farther down to the thug zone.
Right.
So it was like the last hour we were there, it was like dark, probably like 10 o'clock. Um, and we were just like hiking up farther on the hill on the terrain park to see how far we could get down on the knuckle. And we like started to get so far that we were videotaping ourselves. We were like, this is so cool. Like, let's videotape ourselves. And it was like the last run of the day. I remember me being like, all right, like this is it. And so we like hiked up a little extra far and we went off it. And I was going as if I was going to land on a knuckle. So I was angled downwards, right?
Hmm.
And I ended up like going past the entire knuckle and I to the flat ground. and I was going really fast. I like didn't speed check at all. I was going as fast as I could, and I ended up landing on my nose and then immediately falling on my left side. So I hit like my shoulder and head hit first,
Mm.
and I ended up getting knocked out like immediately. I broke my collarbone and top two ribs, and I had a seizure, and I was probably out for like a minute or so. And they got the whole thing on video, but Mitchell Bolin felt so bad about the video that he like had to delete it because like because they didn't know I was hurt at first. They were like, "Oh, Jackson just died. Like, look at him." And then they're like, "Oh, wait." And then they like took it away, but it was really really bad. And then um the worst thing was they took me to like a really sketchy doctor's office,
Mm.
and they didn't even know I broke my collarbone, and I was like certain of it. I was like, I definitely broke it. And they're like, no, we don't think so. And they were like, okay, you probably just have a concussion, you broke your ribs. And they sent me on my way. So I went to school the next day, and I was like,
Next day you were in school?
yeah, I was in school the next day. I don't know if you were there or remember, but like I like was not there. I like shouldn't have been at school at all. I was so mentally out of it. Like I just had a headache the whole day. People were like talking to me, and like I just couldn't comprehend anything. And like I just like felt like people were like laughing at me the whole time. I like couldn't understand why or like the reasoning behind it. I was like I just felt I don't know. I just felt like completely out of it. And then
Yeah.
I remember being in the lunchroom, and I just like walked out because like it was so loud and bright, and I was like, this is terrible. So I just like started walking around the school, and I went to the trainer after school, and he was like, he did a concussion test with me, and I got like, got a terrible score. I'm sure. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he was like, you can't be at school.
Mm.
And he's like, you literally can't be here. And he made me leave school, and I like wasn't in school for probably 2 weeks, I think. And I missed finals week as well.
Yeah.
But he's also like, so the doctor said you broke both your ribs. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, it's almost impossible to break your top rib and not break your collarbone. So he did a couple like tests on me, and he like realized that I did break my collarbone as well. And I wasn't in any sling at all. So I was in so much pain as well. And like I was wearing a backpack. I remember my backpack hurt so bad. And he finally like got me to go to like a better doctor's office to like give me a proper concussion test and like give me x-rayed for a broken collarbone, and it was all right. And yeah, it was terrible.
How much of that actual day, like, do you remember? Like, how far back do you remember? Do you remember going off the jump?
The accident?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't remember that at all. My friend Blake was actually with me, like
Mm.
riding with me that day, and I don't remember him at all, which is like scary to think about. I do remember parts of it. Like I remember hiking up to go off the jump.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember like early in the day, like I just remember like riding a little bit, but I don't remember probably half of the day. It was weird.
It was so it's so sad to watch how many times you got injured in high school. Like right when you would seem to be getting better, you would get injured again. It's like right as you're about like on the cusp of like a new track season or going into basketball or something like that. It's like, oh, Jackson got injured again. For example, tell them the story at the top flight or top gym or whatever it was called.
Yeah, so we were at Top Flight. You were with me, right?
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, and we were just like having a good time. I wasn't like trying anything too crazy. Um, I remember we were like at the trampolines, and I was like trying to do a trick into the foam pit, and I like I drift when I do side flips. I like always have my whole life. I drift to the right a little bit,
Mhm.
and I went for a double side flip into the foam pit, and I completely missed the foam pit and landed on my hip. And like I didn't know what the heck was wrong with me. I thought I pulled both of my groins, and I was just miserable the whole day. And yeah, it was pretty bad. I actually went to work right after that at Silver Lake. I was a lifeguard, which like was terrible because I couldn't have been able to save anyone. Uh, but luckily, I didn't have to get in the water. at all. But like my boss was like, Jackson, like what's wrong with you? I was like, I think I pulled my groin. Like, I don't know, like something's wrong. And I told my parents that I was squatting and I just like heard a pop. And so they just like gave me Advil and were like, just stretch and I'll
Yeah.
do all that stuff. And for like the next like 2 weeks, I like could hardly walk at school. And then finally, like I went to see my doctor after the 2 weeks because he had anticipated that my groin would get better, and it hadn't hardly at all. And he's like, I just want to X-ray you just to see. And when he X-rayed me, he saw that there was healing in my bone. Like when you break a bone, your bone forms like a bone cast around where the crack is. And he was like, have you like ever fractured your pelvis? And I was like, no. And he's like, okay, well, like it's weird, but there's like a bone cast there. Like, and I was like, okay, like, but I lied to my doctor too, which is bad. I like feel bad about that, but because I really didn't want, it was mainly like, I didn't want my parents to have to go through the thought of me doing all these crazy things, because like they knew that I did them, but they just like really didn't like it. And they just pretended like they didn't know. Like I remember showing my mom that I could do a backflip, like right when I learned one, and she freaked out. So I like never have showed her that again.
I remember we were at summer camp, Jackson and I, and there were some people walking by and you'd been doing flips all day. Do you remember this? And you ran to go do a side flip off a rock and just ate it. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
I was side flips are not you used to do them very well, but they have also caused you a lot of pain and misery. So it's been
Yeah,
gotta watch
yeah.
out.
Luckily that one didn't. Nothing happened there, but
No.
yeah.
So high school was full of injuries, broken bones. Was there any other interesting stories to tell the people
Um,
throughout high school years?
yeah. So I have a really, really funny homecoming story. If you want to
Okay.
hear that.
Yes, I would love to because we actually skipped one of our dances because we got so sick of
Yeah,
school dances. So this played into it, I'm sure. So I'm excited to hear this one.
yeah, yeah. So this story is before I realized that like school dances weren't very fun. Like dances can be fun, but high school dances are another thing, especially at our school. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but this is a really funny story anyway. Um, so this is homecoming. I think it was my gosh, I don't remember. Probably my junior year. Do you know? Do you
I have
like know
no
the
clue.
story?
I actually
Okay.
don't know the story, so I'm very excited to
Okay.
hear.
I think it was junior year. It could have been sophomore year. I'm not one of those 2 years. But no, it was junior year because I remember working the summer before. So so I met this girl. That the story of how I met her was funny too. So I worked at Silver Lake, like I said earlier, and which is like a mini water park, like a pool. I was a lifeguard there. And I had a friend there who was like, hey, come to my birthday party. And I was like, okay, sure. We were friends. So I was like, okay, I'll go. And I was like, are there like other guys going too? Because I didn't want to be the only guy, obviously, because that
Yeah.
can be the worst sometimes. So she was like, yeah. And then I talked to Logan, our friend Logan Houston. He's like, yeah, I'm going. I was like, okay, cool. And so I get to her party and Logan's not there and I'm the only
Oh,
guy there. And I was like, okay, this sucks.
how do I
But
lose?
yeah, but I met this girl. So I was like, okay, like she's really pretty. Like, and we were like talking, we were hitting it off. And um, I don't know, we just like get home and next thing I know, we're like Snapchatting, we're like texting, and homecoming was coming up. And I was like, oh, like I should take her to homecoming. This would be great. And so I asked her to homecoming, and right after I asked her, I was like, okay, like sweet, like let's start planning this. She's like, cool, I'm gonna get my dress. And so she gets a dress and it's cream colored. Now, do you know what cream colored is?
Yeah, it's like white and gray
Yeah.
mixed
Would
with
you have known that
yellow.
as like a junior in high school though?
A junior in high school, like you were gonna wear a cream suit. Would I have
No.
known what cream is?
Yeah, like she's like,
Yes,
hey,
I would know
I
what
have a
cream is, Jackson.
I have a I have a cream dress. Like she's just letting me know, hey, I have a cream dress. So I'm thinking like, okay, I don't even know what cream is. Like, how do I match that? Like, what do I do? So so I go to like, I don't know, whatever the place in the mall is, Macy's,
Yeah.
probably Macy's. And I like look up a picture of cream and I'm like, it's just white. Like what, isn't this just white? Like, so, so then I'm like calling her and she's like not answering. I'm like texting her. I was like, hey, like, I don't know what to do with cream. Like, I don't
Mhm.
know how to match this. And she's like, okay, like, you don't have to match it. Like, don't worry about it. Anything matches cream. I was like, okay, whatever. So I wear like the ugliest, I wear like pastel blue and like, I think blue and orange was what I ended up going with just because like, hey, I could do whatever I wanted. She said,
Yeah, two good
full
colors.
rain. So, so we already looked sweet going to it. And then also she was like, hey, or I was younger. So I was a junior in high school, but I was younger. My birthday's in May. So I couldn't drive yet. So I didn't want to be a junior having parents drive us to homecoming.
Right.
And she was even younger than me. She was in my grade, but she was like a later birthday. So um she's like, hey, I can drive us. Like I'll just break the rules. Like my mom's cool with it. Just like tell your mom like I'm older. And I was like, okay. And so that's what I told my mom. And then like she shows up and her mom's like driving. And I'm like, okay, like this is fine. But she just lied to me about like being able to drive us homecoming. And um and then this is on me. This is the worst part. One of the worst parts. But then we're like going to homecoming and I realized like sorry.
You good?
Um I realized like I didn't make a reservation to eat anywhere. Like terrible move by me. I guess I didn't think about it at all. In my head I'm like, oh, I can just make one like on the drive there, or we can eat wherever. Because we weren't going with anyone, like we were just kind of going and meeting up with friends there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, hey, let's go to Dewey's. And so I called Dewey's and they're like, yeah, just come in, maybe we can like see you. And Dewey's was like, hey, we're full, like sorry, we can't. So we get to Dewey's and they're like, hey, like we don't have enough seats for you guys, like we're not gonna be able to get you in before homecoming, we're really sorry. And so we're like, okay, whatever. So um we have her mom drive us to McAllister's, which is like a little sandwich place. It's definitely like
Great
not where you,
potatoes.
yeah, I mean it's definitely a sandwich place, but it's definitely not where you go for a homecoming date, right?
Yeah.
So so we go there and I'm like, gosh, I'm such an idiot. Like, but that was fine. Like we made the most of it. And so, but then we were like, oh shoot, we have to walk to like half a mile to school now, like because her mom left. Um, I honestly can't remember if we walked or got picked up. I think we did walk. I really hope she wasn't in heels, but she probably was, and I feel bad. But um, so we get to the dance. Um, we're like seeing all my friends. It's like fine. She's like really cool, and like I don't even know if it was a slow song or what started playing, but like we're just like dancing, and she like gives me that look of like, hey, like we're gonna kiss now.
Wow.
And like my probably my biggest fear in high school was like kissing people in public. I don't know about my biggest fear, but like everything I hated about homecoming was kissing people in public. Like it's just the worst when you're just like when you look to the left and there's just two people just that's that sucks about
Yeah.
homecoming. And I was like, I don't want to be that, but we were doing it. And so we just like started making out in at the middle of homecoming and like everyone probably saw, and I was like, oh, this sucks. So so instead of being like, hey, like let's not do that tonight, I was just like I tried to just give off as many like subtle hints as I could. But at the same time I like didn't want to say anything because like she was like really pretty and I was like I like, if I say anything, then maybe she won't like me anymore. And like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I was like, I just have to just try not to do that. And so I was pulling in all of my friends I could. I was like, hey, like, how's your night going? I was just like trying to talk to as many people as I could so that we weren't alone, because I was nervous that she was going to make me make out with her again. And so I like kept doing that. And my friend Austin Stacy was there. And I just remember him coming up to me like sweaty. He was like, dude, this is the best homecoming ever. And I was like, yeah. I was like, so like what's so great about it? And I like tried to get a conversation going, and he was just like, okay, I'll like leave you guys. And he like left. And then the next day, like one of my teachers was like, Jackson, like, heard you had a really nice homecoming. Like, and he was there, obviously, like saw me, and I was like, gosh, like this was terrible. And also like after we left homecoming, we went to this party, and at that party, it was a normal party, and we're just chilling, sitting on the couch, and I like see her like making like eye contact with someone, and she's like uncomfortable, and I was like, is everything okay? Like, what's wrong? She's like, yeah, there's just like a girl here that like I don't get along with. And then she's like, can we leave? And I was like, okay. And we didn't have a car again. And so I was like, sure. And so we just start walking down the street, and we're like nowhere near anybody. And so I don't know why, but I called Bailey Harrison. Like, I don't know who to call. So I called Bailey Harrison. I was like, hey Bailey, it's like, we were at a party, like we left. What are you doing? And he's like, hey, I'm just like at this party. And he happened to be like a mile away probably.
Yeah.
So he picked us up and brought us to the party he was at. And it was just like a pool party.
And he
And
came and
like,
picked me up that night too.
oh really?
Yeah, I'm remembering
I
this
didn't
now. So
I don't
Bailey,
remember
for
that.
those of you guys that don't know, is like he was a kid that was a little older than us, but was like kind of like a mentor. He's a really good example, really really good guy. And I was that same night somehow, I don't even know why, but I was like a junior, and I was at some like freshman girls party who I had never like talked to in my life because my other friend wanted to go, and they have a projector outside with a movie up on the garage door and a little fire, and it's just a bunch of people I don't know that are all like freshmen. I'm the oldest person there. They're all like freshmen sitting around watching this movie on this projector screen with a fire, and I'm just like shaking, like I got to get out of here, like. But I didn't have a car either. I didn't have any way to leave. Bailey was the one that dropped me off that night because he just won homecoming king. Drops me off. I'm like, dude, Bailey, I gotta get picked up. He's like, dude, I gotta get picked up Jackson. And he's like, Jackson's out walking. I'm like, all right, dude, pick up Jackson, then come get me ASAP. That was Bailey was a good guy. And for
Yeah.
those of you that don't know Jackson, Jackson's not like exaggerating this whole like probably didn't want to kiss the girl thing, and he really was just like this cool. You're like, I could see you being like hating that, like super, super awkward, like really, really
Yeah.
don't want to do this, but don't know how to not say no. So that's really, really funny.
Yeah. It was a rough situation. So
But our lives got better. We grew up from then. The next year we
yeah.
decided not to go to the dance. We didn't.
Hmm.
We went bowling maybe or something like that. Or maybe we just
Yeah.
went to our favorite restaurant. And then we went our separate ways to college. Then after that, we came back together, and Jackson and I worked at this summer camp together called Camp Toccoa. So this camp was a camp in North Carolina for elementary through high school aged kids. It's a very big variety. And it was a Methodist camp. And I was not Methodist, and Jackson was not going to a Methodist church at this time either. Um, and we got invited because Jackson had a friend that knew the camp. So we spent an entire summer, May or August, May through August at this camp in one of the most beautiful areas of the country that I've been in. But it was a rough time. Some of it I look
Oh
back
yeah.
on. I'm actually recently I've actually been really missing Tacoma out of nowhere. The other day I was talking to my mom, like, Mom, like I kind of wish I had more photos of Tacoma. I don't have hardly any pictures from my time there. And I spent a whole summer there and saw like some beautiful, beautiful things. I actually saw they were live the other day on Instagram. Fun fact.
Oh wow.
But I had a really, really funny story. Jackson, you can tell it probably better than I am. I'll give my perspective. So I'm not very good at golf. Golf is not one of my
Oh,
things, but Jackson loves golfing. So Jackson, I don't know if you remember, but the last week of this summer camp, you and I had already wanted to quit like several times, but we hung in there. We did it. Humbled myself, realized that God had a plan for me there, and I actually learned a lot. I'm very thankful. But it was like one of the last weeks where we had 24 hours between each week that we could do whatever we wanted. It's from like 12 o'clock to 12 o'clock, a Saturday to a Sunday. And we found a golf course that looked just beautiful. Pictures online were just gorgeous. These holes were like nothing I'd ever seen. And it wasn't even that expensive, if I remember right. It was definitely
I think it was
reasonable.
$25 for
Well,
each.
yeah, $25, which to me right now sounds like a lot of money, but I think that's probably fair for like a pristine golf course. So
Yeah, definitely worth it.
yeah,
That's like as much as Ken County probably. And this
right.
was like way nicer.
Yeah. The one problem that we had was you're supposed to wear nice clothes to golf courses, and we didn't have any nice clothes except for our polo shirts that were like really thick, not
They were the
very
worst.
they weren't like golf polos that we were going to wear the next day for like check-in day for the kids. So they just said Camp Toccoa staff really big. So we wore those, and I think I had chacos on and I had like cargo shorts. That's like what my outfit was. We show up and we start playing golf. So we buy the golf cart, whatever, and we look at the weather. I'm like, oh no, like it's about to start raining. Like, oh no. So we get to hole maybe 4. I'm not playing my best golf. All right, I'm holding us back. I'm probably getting 8 to 10 per hole, something like that. And then the rain just starts pouring, just pouring down. We're like, oh, like shoot, we're not gonna be able to finish. So I, in my mind, think, wow, we're not going to be able to finish. We won't be able to come back here again because we're going back to Kentucky. We should get a refund. So Jackson, you can pick this story up here, but I think we deserve a refund, and we're driving back to the lodge, I guess it's called
Yeah. So
clubhouse.
preface this as well, like in North Carolina, it randomly would rain kind of like day to day. So this was like normal to us. We're like, okay, like it just started pouring. Oh, that sucks. So we're driving back and I was like, sucks. Like we'll probably have to get rain checks. Like golf, I like have played a lot of golf and I've never once got my money back. I've got a lot of rain checks. But I was like, I mean, we could try and like if they don't give us our money back, I don't know. It's not the worst thing in the world. It wasn't like that expensive to play. And we did get 5 holes in. So I was trying to see like the bright side of it. And so we go up to the desk. I don't remember which one of us, but we are like, hey, like we only got 5 holes in. And he's like, okay, like we'll give you a rain check for 18. And then one of us was like, hey, like we actually don't live here and we're actually leaving like next week. So we're not going to ever be able to come back here. Is there any way we can get our money back? And then the guy was like pretty snarky. He was like, no, like we just do rain checks here. Like he like pointed to a sign. He's like, says rain checks only. And then Steven was like, we only got 5 holes in. We're not going to ever come back. Like, please. And he's like, yeah. And they're pretty slow 5 holes too. And then Steven's like, we were like, hey, this is like the first time we've golfed in a while. Like, we really weren't playing that slow. Like, we didn't even see anyone. And so then
He said, I was
Steven,
right behind you. I was playing like there were 6 of you. I'm like,
yeah. And we were like, there wasn't anyone behind. Like, there obviously wasn't anyone behind us the whole time.
yeah.
Like, I didn't know what he was talking about. But, and then Steven just, I don't remember what you were saying, but I just remember it just immediately turned into yelling. Like, you guys were both yelling at each other. I had to leave. Like, I literally like left the place because I just felt so awkward. I like couldn't. I hate being around people who are yelling. But apparently Steven was like, or apparently the guy was like, I don't care, like you're not getting your money back. I'll give you 4 rain checks. I don't care. Like, and so and they kept arguing. And then Steven was like, okay, I'm not getting my money back. He's like, okay, I'll take 4 rain checks. And the guy's like, what? Like, and then you're like, yeah, I'll take 4 rain checks. And then I think they like talked to another manager, and then they came back and slammed the 4 rain checks down, all super pissed. And he came out and he's like, I got 4 rain checks. And then we were like, okay, cool. Like, what do we do with these? And so Steven tried to sell them in the parking lot to like people as they were driving away, and no one wanted them. And so then like the next week I was on a bus and I was just telling the bus driver like this story, like what had happened. He's like, oh, was it so-and-so golf course? And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, I play that all the time. Like, I love that place. And I was like, do you want rain checks there? Like, we have them. And he's like, sure. And he paid us more for the rain checks than we paid to play. So I think we paid 25 to play golf, and he paid us 30 for each of the rain checks. So we
Yeah,
ended up making money.
yeah, because we had a discount because of the time of day that we went to play, and
Yeah.
and we still gave him a discount on what it would be a normal 18, and he just bought them all off us, and we ended up coming back to Northern Kentucky with a nice little bonus check in our pockets, and was super excited about that. So we did well for ourselves. So all right, Jackson, as we're wrapping up, what are you up to? What are you up to these days? So, a little during that time, a little after that time, you got really into spike ball. Speak a little bit on what you're doing with spike ball now, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah. I mean, well, we played like one day randomly at camp in high school,
Yeah,
and we had bought sets. And so I brought it to college, and I had never even opened it. And one day we were just bored. So we got out spike ball, and I played with some friends, and we were like, had a lot of fun. We loved it. We're like pretty good, I feel like. So I like
yeah,
looked up how good people are. And then I like saw that like people play in tournaments. I was like, okay, like how cool would it be to go to one of these?
yeah.
So one thing led to another, and we like ended up playing the first ever college tournament. And I started a club here at Western. It's been really fun. It's been really cool. We've made a lot of friends through it. Got to like travel and compete with a bunch of like my friends. And then like recently over the past like year and a half, I was like, I feel like I could take this further. So I just last year I kind of just grinded, and I went to every tournament I could, and I ended up uh like having a pretty good season. And yeah, I mean, now I get to travel and play for free this year. Well, I guess not because of this coronavirus, but
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to do that. Hopefully it'll still be there when all this is over.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, what are you ranked in the world right now?
Um I think I'm ranked 51 individually, and I think I'm 16 as a team. I'm pretty
15,
sure. What did you say?
I thought it was 15.
Yeah, 15. I think it's 15.
Yeah, so 15th best team in the world, 51st best player in the world. And it's funny because the the first ever national championship that we played in, Jackson and I played together, and that was only what 3 years ago, 4 years, 2017, right?
Yeah, so 3 years ago.
3 years ago, and we can blame it on me, but we lost every single game that we played.
Yeah.
We did not win a single game. We weren't even in the best division, and we got smacked over and over and over again. And then now, 3 years later, number 15th team in the world. So that's pretty impressive. Um, and yeah, hopefully the season gets started again here soon, so you guys can get back at it because be big things coming for sure.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right. Well, Jackson, thank you for the hilarious stories. And sorry your body has been through so much pain and turmoil, not only in your bones, but in your heart, in your lips, in your mind, and in your golf fears. So it's good to have you on the first episode of Face, Name, and Story. And we look forward to having another person on here soon. So Jackson, you're a beast. Good luck in the spike ball season this year. And we will see you later.
Thank you.
Jackson.
See ya.